Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Hot Mic Lady She podcast. I'm your host, Lady She. Welcome to da, 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 my fake drum roll. Welcome to Men Where Art Thou series. Tonight, I will have my third guest on, and this is a special interview. God is amazing. I truly understand. When He's given us the term. Intentional, and when he's given us the term divine connections, because I've realized Mr. Saunders has literally known me like most of my life. Most of my life. He's been an educator for 30 years. We met through the STAR program in Hempstead. And as an adult, as a correction officer, I was blessed to be a part of the only Black organization for correction officers in Nassau County. And we were honored to speak to his youth group twice. Actually, he told me twice, now that I think about it, twice. And it was such a blessing. Um, I have him coming on just to be exactly who he is, because that's what my heart is. I have a heart for the men, I have a heart for the youth, and he's connected to both. I am super excited to hear what this man has to say. I know he's a wealth of knowledge. I know that he has so much to pour into us if we would just lend an ear. I know that because of the heart that you have, excuse me, that he has for the youth, that somebody's going to be touched tonight. And my prayer is that it will not only change your life, but it will change your thinking when it comes to our kids, to understand they're not our future, they're our now. And it is up to us to do the work to keep them encouraged and to tap into their gifts that they may not even know that they have. That's when we come in as the adults to help them and to water the seed that's already been planted in them by God. So I am super excited for tonight. I am my antennas are up, so to speak. I just can't wait to hear, what this man has to say, connected to the organization, why he started the organization, why he still, chooses to be connected to the community, and all the other things that he's doing, things I might not know about. So let's invite him in right now, Mr. Keith Saunders.
Grace and peace, everybody.
Good evening, Mr. Saunders.
Good evening. It's great to see you.
Likewise. It's been a while. It's absolutely been a
Yes,
while.
it has. Thank you for the
Yeah.
invitation and the opportunity to speak to your audience.
Listen, I am in awe right now. I know this is God. Amen. I am in awe
Amen.
of what God is doing. I am excited. I was just basically bragging about you and bragging about God, just his divine connections, and how he will bring things back around full circle if we actually pay attention.
Absolutely.
Just sharing, the STAR program and Hempstead, and just, you know, it could have been another way, but God, like that's what I
Absolutely.
have right now. It could have been another way. So thank you so much, Mr. Keith Saunders. Let me make sure I'm pronouncing it correctly. How do you pronounce it? You say Sonia?
Sonia.
Sonia. Okay.
Yes,
Um,
Sonia.
Thank you for coming on this platform on tonight. You are our third king of the Men Where Art
Thank
Thou
you.
series of Hot Mic with Lady She podcast. So thank you so much, Mr. Keith Saunders of Sonia Organization.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to the conversation. Hopefully, we can
Yes,
enlighten some minds and open some eyes and change some hearts and minds and spirits and
absolutely.
allow people to start the journey to see themselves differently and see their condition differently. Because it all
Yes.
starts in the mind.
You better say that. That's what God keeps giving us mindset.
Uh,
As a man thinketh, so is he. So
right.
we're just gonna jump right in. First off, let me just even you corrected me on the pronunciation of
Well, it could be both ways.
it could be both
Sonia,
ways.
because Y is for youth.
Right.
Sonia was her first name, but Y is for youth
Okay.
because our
So
passion is with the youth.
right. So explain just us tapping into the name, share with everyone, where the name came about.
Sure. The name of the organization in its full entirety, it's kind of long, so bear with me. It's the Saunders, which is my last name, Omnipresent Network, Inspiring America's Youth Incorporated. So that was a play on words of Sonia. Sonia A. Saunders was my late wife who died from breast cancer. So the organization was named in her memory, and the logo is in her likeness. So the whole focus is a tribute to her life and her legacy as an educator and her life and her legacy as a community activist.
All right, all right. So, where did this? Because I feel like working with the children is like an innate thing. What was your upbringing like? Talk to us a little bit about who Mr. Saunders was as a child.
As a child, I was a very quiet young man. I was the only child. My mother's the only child. My grandmother was one of 10. But when we deal with this whole thing with COVID right now,
Mm-hmm.
her she lost 8 siblings during the first influenza of 1918. So
Wow.
she was down to 2 siblings. So growing up, my old traditional concept is my grandmother, my great grandmother raised my mother, and my grandmother raised me. So I was raised by women. So
Right.
my grandmother did the migration from the south to the north to provide better opportunity and finances and left her daughter, her only daughter, with her mother. And she was sending money back like other communities do now, come to America and send money back to their country. People don't realize we originated that concept coming from the south to the north
Mm-hmm.
to send money back home to have a better life. So my grandma was able to build a house for her mother, and she was able to build a foundation. That's something that they didn't have before. So growing up, when my mom went away to college, she ended up getting pregnant with me. So her senior year, she never finished. She ended up coming home. And coming home was now she's living with her mom for the first time in her life, coming to New York.
Wow.
And during her senior year of high school, her name was changed because my grandmother got married. So they
Mm-hmm.
changed her name from Bessie Rollerson to Elizabeth Ophelia Saunders. So her
Wow.
name was changed without her authorization. But my we carried the Saunders name from my
Mm-hmm.
step grandfather. So he would love my grandmother enough to give us his name.
Right. Wow. That's
And
deep.
so yeah, so we carry that name with pride. So when my mom came up, my grandmother sent her back to school because she was going to South Carolina State University. And because she missed me so much, she forego her education and came back home to take care of me. So growing up, I was a single only child.
Right.
Um, we were not rich, but we were not poor in the early stages. Growing up in the community of Roosevelt, Long Island, it's a middle class community by sight, beautiful grass, beautiful homes, but sometimes the mentality is not as beautiful as the community looks. So when
Mm.
you're impacted by that mentality, you have to grow up kind of rough. You got to be able to fight. You got to be able to snap. You got to be able to defend yourself. But meanwhile, on the outside, if you look at that community as a whole, you say, wow, it's a beautiful middle class community that Howard
Absolutely.
Stern comes from, Eddie Murphy comes from,
Mm-hmm.
Chuck D, Public Enemy comes from. All these greats come from this community, but we all had our own little struggles.
Right.
But
Right.
the
Right.
struggle is really a mindset. The struggle is a
Mm-hmm.
mindset. It's not an economic set, it's a mindset.
Right. 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 So now, only child, your mom. What part of South Carolina? That's where my people from.
My mom is from played a little place called Greeleyville, South Carolina, and my father was from Warsaw, North Carolina. And I had no relationship with my dad. I may have seen him about 20 times in my entire life until he passed away.
Until he passed away. Now he passed
Yeah.
away when you were an adult or as a child.
I was 37 years old when he passed away, but we had no real connection or relationship. But I was blessed to have a relationship with his mother, his aunt, his sister, rather, my aunt. So I had a relationship with his family, but never a relationship with him.
Was that like by choice or just like how it kind of fell into
No,
place?
that's how it fell into place. And one thing that I want the women on your podcast to realize, my mother never said one thing negative about my father. Never.
Say
She
that,
never
Mr.
said one thing
Saunders.
negative. My
Love that.
grandmother never said anything negative about my father. And although he was what he was, I didn't have a real adult conversation with him until I was newly married at the age of 29. Short story. I was newly married. My wife had a son, Mark Jr. Hopefully he's listening. And we went down to see his parents for the first time so they could meet my new wife and my new stepson. And my grandmother called her son, which is my father, and we found out that he lived in D.C. We was going to pass through D.C. to bring my stepson to see his father.
Hmm.
And come to find out, my biological father lived around the corner from my son's father's mother. So we told him, if you
Whoa.
want to see us, we will be in this area at this time. And sure enough, he came.
Wow.
And that's when I got a real education about his background. And I came out there with a better understanding. I was able to let go of the hate. I had
Come
to let go of the
on.
hate because the hate was
Mm.
real. I had to just let that hate go because now I understood why he was the way he was. And he did me a service by leaving my life because he was not equipped to deal
Come
with
on,
a
Mr.
child or
Saunders.
other children because of how he was raised. So we
Right.
are in the business now of breaking generational curses. My mother
That's
raised me with the mindset of you have to break our family generational curses of never getting married, having children out of wedlock, not
hmm
graduating from school. So that was ingrained in me from when I was just a little boy.
I love that you said first of all, shout out to your mom, because
Mm-hmm.
the awareness is vital in what you said, because she could have badmouthed him. She could have chosen to just deal with his response to you or lack thereof and made you remember and understand like he could have done better. So,
Mm-hmm.
thank you for sharing that. That is very, very important, and that I wish people could grab a hold of that energy and understand that parents are not perfect. People make mistakes. People may have intentions and just are not equipped. So,
Right.
thank you for that. That was a bar. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for that.
You're
So,
welcome.
growing up in Roosevelt, you shared that it's a beautiful place, and it kind of had its things going on. You know, were because you were the only child. Do you feel that you had to be a little tough because you didn't have other siblings to lean on, or did you have like close cousins growing up? Sometimes the only children have cousins that become like siblings.
That's an excellent analogy. My cousins became my big brothers and big sisters. I was the youngest of them all, and they really took care of me. They took me in. They raised me. The closest to me is my cousin Nolan, who's 7 years older than me. Debbie was 8 years older than me, and the rest of them were older. It was five of them,
Right,
and they took me in, and they protected me, and they raised me, and they gave me help give me a foundation about life, and they made sure I was not in those streets. They always encouraged me, and so that was a blessing in itself growing up, having that foundation of an extended family
right,
that was there to support me and help guide me through the process of life. And although they had their challenges in life, they
hmm
always protected and make sure I was on the right path and stayed on the right path. So,
right,
and it was my grandmother's brother's children, my
hmm
mother's first cousins, that were instrumental in my development and growing up.
right. So now, when you say they were instrumental in the development of your growing up, as in, like they were more like the father figures, or did your mother decide to later on get married and you had a stepdad? What was the dynamics in the
That's a
household like?
great question. My mom never married.
Okay.
She never married. She did have friends, boyfriends, but she never
Hmm.
married. The void of manhood. My cousins were like they were more like uncles or big brothers. They were not the fatherly type, but the fatherly type came into my life through coaches.
Come
Ironically,
on.
a lot of my friends' fathers took the time to help nurture me and develop me, and I got a chance to see an example of the quality of what a man does. Now, granted, as you become older as an adult, when you talk to those same friends, they may not have the best relationship with their dad at home because they're with them 24/7. But they sometimes are jealous because their parents poured a lot into me
Hmm.
and didn't pour that same kind of energy into them. And
Hmm.
I brag about their parents. They look at me like I was crazy
Hmm.
because I'm bragging about their father who took the time out to pour into me, the Mr. Dennises of the world, the Mr. Simpsons of the world, the Mr. Dudleys of the world. They took the time out to pour into me, the Raymond Matthews of the world. They really took that time out to show me an example. Through sports, you learn a lot about discipline and structure. If you
Right.
notice a lot of professional athletes, they always shout out their coaches. They're shouting at their single mothers. So that's what I mean about breaking these generational curses. It's time for men to step up and be men so their children could be proud of them to shout them out as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
People
And
get
so,
mad at Alonzo Ball, Mr. Ball father, because
mhm,
he's dominant and he's vocal and he's unapologetically a father.
absolutely. It's so interesting that you brought him up because when it's foreign to you, it's foreign to you. When it's foreign to you, you tend to judge. You know what I mean? And so
Mm,
that's why I think he gets
right.
so much, slack because he's consistent and he's hands on with his boys and he makes it known like, no, they got a daddy.
Mm,
You know what I'm
that's
saying?
right.
So that's something we need to learn how to embrace. I'm not saying everything he got going on is what it should be, but just the foundation of that, they have a present father, because you can have a
Right.
parent in the home and still not be present. So something you just said stuck out that I remember, growing up was, your friends looking at you some type of way when you're praising their parent. Do you think it is, I just would like your opinion. Do you think that the reason why there are more, how can I say, the reason why we have dads that seem to be better mentors and coaches to children that don't belong to them, because there's, how can I ask the question? Because I promise you, I feel like this is something I keep hearing about. He was a great coach, but he was a horrible dad. You know, what do you think that's about? What do you think that's about? That they can't give the same energy they give to a stranger's child to their own child.
I've been trying to figure that out for 51 years. I don't get it. I have family members that are great
Woo.
step parents. You see
Mhm.
them with their girl, not even their wife, their girlfriend's children,
Mhm. Mhm.
but they don't even call their own child. And I will never understand that disconnect as long as I shall live. It's inexcusable.
It is inexcusable. I want to understand. I want to understand, how do you get to that place? And all I can think of is that it has to be something personal connected to either the mom or how the child was brought here. Like, I don't, I don't, I really, I'm thank you so much for being transparent and just being real and giving your answer. But it is something we need to think about. Why is that? Why is it that way? Why is it that way? And how does it affect that child? Because, like you mentioned, it will raise up jealousy. Now these two
Mhm.
who were supposed to be teammates or classmates, one feels some type of way about the other, and the other just grateful for the
Right.
relationship with their dad. So,
And see, those who have it, they don't know what it's like not to have it.
yeah.
So so they take it for granted because they see it every day. Now you have what some people call the present absent father. He's a provider. The lights are on. There's food in the refrigerator. There's clothes on your back. Mom is taken care of, but he doesn't never have the emotional development to be emotional. Son, I love you. Give me a hug, son. A lot of men, they call it the old school man. They don't know how to embrace. I make sure I tell my son and my daughter and my wife, I love you, because I never heard it. I knew my mom loved me, but she never used those words. I knew my grandmother loved me. She didn't start telling me she loved me till she started writing me letters in college. But her actions was that. And that's a
Right.
carryover. I don't want to scare nobody, but that's a carryover from that slavery mindset
Right.
of being scared to say I love you because your child could be sold from you any day. Scared to develop that
Ooh.
emotional connection.
Right.
So when you're scared to
Wow.
develop that connection and you pass that kind of energy on down from generation to generation, yeah, I know mommy loved me, but she never said it.
Hmm.
Kids need to hear it. It used to
Yeah.
drive me crazy to be transparent. When my mom became saved, I would hear her
Hmm.
tell church members, I love you. And
Right.
then I didn't hear it at home until I became an adult and we started exchanging I love yous before she passed away. And the most beautiful experience in the world. It
Right.
builds your self esteem. It
Yeah.
allows you to stick your chest out to know that somebody loves you,
Hmm.
somebody is there for you. Those words are powerful. Life and death is in the power of the tongue.
That's it. That's
We can
it.
either speak
Absolutely.
life or death, and your silence is death. Your
Right.
kids need to hear life. The good
Hmm.
book says, I am. When they ask you, who are you? He says, I am. And you can feel I am with anything. I am great.
Right.
I am happy. Or you could do the negative. I'm poor. No, we don't do
Right.
a negatives. We deal in the positive affirmations. When you say I am, you fill in the blank of what you want to be. I am a leader. I am a teacher. I am a husband. I am a father. I am a provider.
Absolutely, absolutely. Love that. Love that. So now, grew up in Roosevelt. Mom said mom never married. Your male influences is coming from the coaches, the adults in your life through your friends or through sports. What sports did you play? First off,
Growing
what
up,
sports were you?
I played baseball. I was a pitcher in baseball, quarterback in football, and basketball. I was a center. So I played football, basketball, and baseball.
Football, basketball, and baseball. Now,
Yes,
you went to college.
yes.
What was your major, and did you go? Were you able to get a scholarship?
No, if I was stuck with baseball, I
Hmm.
probably would have got a scholarship because I was stereotyped when I got to high school because I was 6 foot
Explain
three,
that.
6 foot 4. I was 6'4".
Oh,
I left Roosevelt Community. My mom sent me to St. Agnes. At
okay.
St. Agnes, coach saw me in the hallway being a 6'3", 6'4" black guy. Won't you come out and play basketball? I liked
Mm,
basketball, but I didn't love basketball. So I came out for basketball, and I'm so used to being in the neighborhood playing all three sports. So I said, okay, I can still do all three sports. The coach was really tight, didn't want us to do all three sports. So I
mm,
ended up giving up baseball because of peer pressure from adults. End
wow.
up not playing football because I had tendonitis in both knees. So now
Mm,
I'm playing basketball, something I did not love. I did not put the work in to do. So therefore, I was not successful in high school with basketball. My coach told me one day, Keith, you're not going to be a great at basketball, but you're going to be a great at something else.
ha!
And sure enough,
What?
I'm great at something else. And that message I
Yeah.
took heed to.
Wow. Wow. So let me pull you back a little bit because what you said was interesting. Do you feel like that happens a lot where the pressure of the adults, can shift for the student? Because you if I don't know if you saw the documentary for, well, I'm sorry, not the documentary, the movie for Kaepernick, and in that
No,
movie you saw the pressure of the baseball coaches trying to tell him baseball is the one,
right,
and he's like, I'm doing football. Like, they had it in their
right,
brain, there's no way they're gonna take you. I need you to do baseball because this would make more sense. And he was gun ho on, I know I'm good, but I'm doing this for me. So do you
right.
see that a lot where the adults pressure the children, to
And the
shift?
pressure that I see is not only from coaches, but it's from parents. Parents
Mm-hmm.
whose dreams were deferred,
Come on in here.
parents who were great athletes, and they were not successful because of the choices that they make. Now they're living through their children too much, putting too much pressure on their children to try to do what they couldn't do. But
Right.
the unfortunate thing is they don't put that same pressure on them in the classroom. They put that pressure on
Ooh,
them in sports.
come on with the bars. Yes. Yes, 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 yes,
And
yes.
now, when that child
Ooh.
has the talent to be a D1 athlete, but does not have the grades, you want to blame the school system.
Right.
Because you are the parent. You control it. The kid is failing every class. You are the
Mhm.
parent. You can pull him off. If the coach does not have his best interests at hand, it is your responsibility as the parent to pull him off the team.
What does
And
that
now,
look like?
in this,
What does
that's
that
the
look like?
baby.
You said the coach that has your child's best interest at heart. What does that look like for a parent?
If a coach has your best interests at heart and you're not passing, you're not playing. You're going to extra help. You're
Boom.
producing progress reports. I coached before. My kids
Mhm.
had to produce progress reports. It was mandatory. And if you didn't have your progress reports up to speed, I was tutoring you. I got tutors for
Right.
you. I would
Wow.
go to the house. I wasn't paid to go to Rhett Butler's house. Hopefully he's listening. I wasn't paid to go to his house, but I went. His mom was cool with it. I was tutoring him because I saw something in him, a talent of what he's capable of doing. When you're a leader, you are able to see potential in people that can't see potential in themselves.
That's the one. That's the
And
one.
now, when you're in that position, you want to do everything in your power. I'll give you an example. My brother Hank Williams. Shout out to Hank Williams. He's a school administrator in Hempstead.
All
Hank is
right.
one of the only people I've ever seen pull children from really bad homes and have them live with him. His
Wow.
wife and Hank already had 5 kids. He would have them live with him so they could see a healthy, structured relationship of a mother and a father taking care of their children and still made room for them to come
Right.
into their home to see an example of a healthy family. We need to see more healthy families.
Yeah.
And by them being in that environment, a lot of those kids who stayed with him went to college on scholarships, graduated, doing well for
Right.
themselves because he and his wife were invested in what was
Hmm.
best. They sacrificed for others.
Right. Wow.
They
Wow.
sacrificed. Not many people could
Listen,
have a stranger come into their home with their children and
that's
be
a fact.
comfortable.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
salute him every chance I get.
Yeah. Wow. Shout out to him. Ooh, that gave me chills. That gave me
Hmm.
chills right there. That's listen. That's love. That's what that
Hmm.
is. You know, love comes in all different things, different ways, and that's what that is. That's love. That's love. All right, I love that. So now, you get to college. You said you did not go on a scholarship. Which college did you attend?
I'm a very proud graduate of Nassau Community College.
All right.
People call it, they used to tease us and call us the 13th grade Turnpike Tech. But what they didn't realize, Nassau is
Turnpike
one
Tech.
of the second or the third best junior college in the
You
country.
better say that. That's a fact.
Second the best in the country. Your credits transfer to anywhere you want to go. So if you
Thank
do
you,
all your liberal
Nassau.
arts credits up front,
Hmm.
it will take you on that journey towards saving money and getting your quality of education. And
Absolutely.
that's important. So at Nassau is where my life really changed. I went from a very quiet kid who kept to himself and reserved and played his little sports, and that's where I found my voice. And Nassau was the first time in my life I've ever had a male, black male teacher. I repeat that again. That was the
Wow.
first time in my life I had a black male instructor,
So wait, I'm
Professor
sorry.
Kenneth Jenkins.
All right, time out. Go back. So you grew up in Roosevelt, and
Yes,
all your teachers were white.
white women and black women, absolutely. And when I went to Queen of Most Holy Rosary, white women, yes.
That was okay. That took me. Wow. All
We
right.
had
So
at
so
Nassau,
share. Wow.
Nassau Community College. I
Hmm.
had a black guidance counselor who convinced me to take an African history course. And like
Hmm.
any ignorant kid who never was exposed to knowledge of himself, I'm like, what do I want to take that for? What is that going to do for me? I don't
Hmm.
want to take that class. Try it. So first I had Coretta James, blew my mind, joined her organization and started to open my mind up to a knowledge of myself. I'm like, why am I learning stuff about me? I've been in school 12 years and never knew any of this information. Then I went to Professor Wise, who started expanding my horizons even more.
Professor
And then
Wise.
then I ended up with Kenneth Jenkins, who was my mentor, who I was connected to for almost 20 years because he was so impactful in my life. Because of that man and because of his teachings and how he carried himself and how he treated me, I changed my major and I said, I want to be like him. I want to have the impact that he has on other people, like the impact that he had on me.
Yeah.
So I changed my major and I became an educator. I joined African People's Organization. I found my voice. I started to go on rallies. I started studying and learning. In this process of studying and learning, I found courage to speak up in public. I found courage to be proud of who I was, to hold my head high, my chest out, and be able to be confident to walk in any room and be successful. So
Yeah.
he was the one who really transformed my life.
That's amazing. So you said you what was it? You said you joined African. What was it? African.
It was APO, African People's Organization.
Is that organization still around?
I have no ideas. I'm going to say it 30 years ago.
We need to just look into that. Wow. So
Mm.
are you still in contact with these people? With these educators?
Professor Jenkins passed away about
Oh.
3 years ago. I went to the funeral services of him. He's so impactful. Shout out to my brother Franz Dawsonville. He is Dr. Dawsonville now. We were both in his class 30
Mhm.
something years ago and didn't know each other. As you said, nothing is by accident. We ended up
That's it.
both working for Uniondale School District, and that's
Mhm.
how we found out that he was just a bigger mentor to him as he was for me. And now
Love
he's
it.
Dr. Dawsonville.
Love that. Love that. And Dr. Wise and who'd you say? Can't? Would you say Candace?
Professor Wise,
Mm-hmm.
Professor Wise. He was instrumental, but nobody had the impact on my life that Professor Jenkins had. When we
Wow.
read Souls of Black Folk, Up from Slavery, those books stick with me now. It's like, wow, the Reconstruction period and the history that W.B. Du Bois, all this stuff was like pouring into me. He would bring
Yeah.
in like memorabilia, like Klan uniforms that you can actually see and touch and feel and stuff that it just blew my mind. So that when I changed my major, I ended up going to Stony Brook University for one reason. They had an African history program, and you can get a college degree in African studies.
Right.
And that's why I
Wow.
ended up at Stony Brook. I did not apply to anywhere else. I said, God, this is for me. Applied to one school and got in at one school.
Love that. Love that. So you majored in African studies after
Yes.
Nassau. And
Yep.
what,
African studies.
gosh, I got so many questions about that. Wow. 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 Ooh. So, ooh. I love us. I love us and I love hearing,
Mm.
great stories. What, share with us, I know you mentioned a few books, but share with us, have you had any encounters where, maybe they had you guys do debates, or did you do like a paper that stands out that you could share? Give us an anecdote connected to that time in college, under that major.
Under that major, college was exploration. We would explore off campus. There's an organization in Brooklyn called the Slave Theater on Fulton Avenue. And that's where you had some of the elite thinkers, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, would come and present and speak. And President of Rwanda was there, and all these different major leaders were present. And we would take the school van and drive into Brooklyn every Wednesday night and get that extra education from the Slave Theater. And Al Sharpton, Alton Maddox, C. Vernon Mason, they were all leaders of that movement at the time. And that was our part of our so-called doctoral program from National Community College. So just getting off of campus, going into Brooklyn, seeking out that information. Then we start going to First World, which is in Manhattan and Harlem. So we were seeking additional resources and information outside of Nassau, because your real education is outside of the classroom.
Right,
Real
right.
education is life.
Mm-hmm.
And the first
Yes.
time we ever knew about this program, we went to the Gulf War was happening. We went to a rally in Manhattan to protest the Gulf War. And we heard Al Sharpton speak, and he's talked about this place called a Slave Theater. We looked it up. We got on it, and we found it. We went on, took several train rides to get there. It took about 3 hours, but we made it. And once we got exposed to that culture, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, Conrad Muhammad, and so many, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Dr. Smalls, our wisdom was expanding and we
Yeah.
wanted to share it. It's like being a new Christian. You want to tell everybody about the
Yeah.
goodness of what you was learning.
Mhm. Wow. So now, what was that? Oh my gosh. Like, listen, I got so many questions. What was the, just tell me, first of all, how old were you at this time? So were you like 20,
19,
21,
19 to 20, 19 to
19 to
20, that's
20?
just 2 years. Mm-hmm.
You're a 19-year-old, 19, 20-year-old riding for 3 hours to go to this
Mm-hmm.
place to hear people that you've never heard before.
Right.
What was it like being in a rally? Like, give me something. I need to know. Like, my brain is about to explode just thinking about being that young and being in that environment. What was that like? Like, what stood out to you?
What stood out to me is the number of young and old African American people who was there on a Wednesday night. They wasn't watching TV. They wasn't in the
Right.
bar. They was there seeking information, and it was free. What
Mm,
concerned me, there wasn't a lot of young people there. That's the same thing that concerns me today. There was a
right.
lot of the elders who were from that 60s movement who still had that fight and that energy, and they basically looking for somebody else to carry the torch.
Right.
So me and some of the Stony Brook, first it started at Nassau, then I went to Stony Brook. I exposed them to out there as well. So it was about the exposure. And an example, after Al Sharpton got stabbed, I was at the slave
Oh,
when he came, when he was healed up to come. I was there when Dr. Ben, Joseph Ben Johannan, told the reporters that get out of here. I don't speak in front of white people. I was there when they did that.
wow.
And the crowd turned on the reporters like, get out of here, get out of here. And they hightailed it out of there.
Right.
I, I
Wow.
was part of a lot of historic events coming up. I was there when Mayor Giuliani came into office and was cleaning up Harlem, so to speak. And when the police officers ran into Mosque number 7 and got beat up and disarmed and thrown down the stairs, I was inside for that. I was part of a lot of historical events.
Wow.
As an adult, I went to Jenna when the Jenna 6 incident happened. I went to New Orleans to participate in that protest with my man B. Jones and AK, Antonio Kelly. So
Right.
this is real, man. This is a passion. This is not something that you play with. This is something
Right.
that you go out and you gain that experience. And as your educator, you bring that experience to your students to open their minds and try to transform their
Absolutely.
minds and get them to think outside of their community, think globally.
Right.
And how about the impact? It's about impact.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now, 19 years old. Oh, well, let's do this. Now you've gotten through college, you graduate, yeah? And
Hmm.
what, with all of this information and pride and wisdom, bubbling over in you, what did you tell yourself was next after college?
I wanted to become, there's no jobs in African American history, so I had to get
Right.
certified as a social studies teacher. So that was
Okay.
my mission to get certified as a teacher. My goal was to come back home to Roosevelt. Roosevelt had a negative stigma. My goal was one day to be principal in Roosevelt High School. I wanted to come back and work. I wanted to come back and serve. So I was determined because I never went to Roosevelt High School. My mom
Right,
took
right,
me out of
right.
the system and sent me to private school.
Hmm.
So my goal was to come back home because now I got all this information about my community, all this information about myself. I'm radicalized. I got the black fist up. I'm ready to
Yeah.
work in my community with my people because, as one of the great leaders said, you got to love your people more than they hate you, especially when you're in
Mm.
leadership. So
Yeah.
when in this environment, I needed to go home. And when I went home, I did my student teaching in Roosevelt. And then after the student teaching, I got hired by at Ulysses Bias by Miss Watson. And I was excited about that opportunity, but they never told me it was a leave position. So I worked there for 1 year as a reading teacher. I started a basketball program there. I was mentoring kids there. Then I got excess. I got the Teacher of the Year award in one hand and excess papers in the other hand.
Oh,
And that
wow.
led me to coming to meet you guys at the STAR program. That's how I ended up at STAR.
All right.
But prior to that, what got me involved in the community was the I.M. Corporation of Roosevelt, ran by Diane and Brother Raymond Matry. And through that program, they taught the kids how to be self-sufficient. They taught them how to be entrepreneurs. It was just amazing to see one brother who was a detriment to the community in Raymond, who was an addict, turn his life around, clean himself up, find a great woman, invest in our children in our community, purchase a house for those children who can't live at home to live there, get corporations and organizations and teach these kids skilled labor, electricians and
Yes.
carpentry, and taught them how to establish their own businesses. And it just expanded into a summer camp. And at the summer camp, I was hired at 21 years old to run the summer camp. Me and Dominic Merrills
To run it.
to run the summer camp. That was completely black owned and black run. That we were able to do what we want, how we wanted for our people. It was like one of those revolutionary '60s summer camps, and it was a
Yeah.
beautiful experience.
It
We
sounds
used to
like it.
have them
Oh my
singing the
gosh.
Nas song, I know I can be what I want to be. If I work
Yeah.
hard at it, I could be where I want to be. That was our mantra in the mornings. And we used to
Love
have the
that.
kids in lines because one of the S.O.N.I.Ws of Public Enemy, his children were going to the camp.
Hmm.
And we used to have them like get in a position like they were soldiers and march and step. It was just a phenomenal experience. And that was the mindset, the framework for me starting S.O.N.I.A.Y was patterned after that experience as a 21-year-old working in the community. And I realized that they had the power and control to do what they want because they was independent and they were free.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. That was awesome. That was awesome. So wait a minute now. Is this program around anymore?
Excuse me?
Is that
I
program
am
around
Corporation?
anymore? Yeah, I am corporation.
No, they've been going for over 20 years, but they set the foundation. It always lived through me and my work.
Right.
So it doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
And
All
the
right.
two founders have passed on to be with the Lord already.
Okay. All right. Got you. Wow. Woo. I got chills. So now you're seeing this. What I love that you said that was significant was you said black owned and black run. We got to get back to that thing. How do we do that? Let me pull back first. All right. The STAR program. Share, explain what the STAR program was.
STAR stands for Success Through Academic Readiness. It was created by Jerry and Lilo Leeds. They were Holocaust survivors who became extremely wealthy by publishing. When you're on your airplane, you're looking at those magazines. There was publishers of that magazine. So their way of giving back after the experience with the Holocaust was going into at-risk communities and investing in those communities. So they created first was Star, then was Comet. Comet was Children
Right.
of Many Educational Talents.
Hmm.
So the Star program first pilot was in Roosevelt School District. Then it came to Hempstead School District. So I was involved in the Hempstead chapter of Star.
Okay.
So the concept was a school within a school model. So they had a director and brother Burrows. They had two social workers. Shout out to my sister Andrea Williams and Will Barrow. They had academic coordinators who were licensed teachers in each discipline. They had counseling embedded in the morning, counseling in the afternoon, and they provided incentive trips. They would go to retreats for 2 and 3 days to get the kids out of the community. They organized college tours, professional games. The children didn't have to pay not one dime. What they wanted the children who were at risk
Hmm.
of not graduating was their targeted audience. And they had a 93% graduation rate.
Wow.
That's how I met your brother Shante.
Right. Right. Shout out to
So
Shantae.
the at risk population was what they targeted. And so we were able to take the curriculum, mix it, and create alternative ways of learning before we have with IEP, individual education plans.
Hmm.
We were
Hmm.
doing that long before that even existed.
Right.
We were differentiating instruction long before that had a title. So that
Hmm.
concept was phenomenal for us. So
Right.
because of that program, a lot of young people from Hempstead, Roosevelt, and went to Brooklyn are successful today because the leads, Caucasians, who invested back into the community, but they hired people who look like the community.
Right. So do you feel that that concept or what you just said, you know, having another culture invest into the black culture and let us lead it, do you think that works?
It worked. All HBCUs was funded by white
Say
philanthropists.
that.
Let's call it what
Say
it
that.
is.
Let's be clear.
So
Yeah.
everybody's
Come on,
not.
Keith.
Let's be clear. Everybody's not a racist. Everybody don't hate you. Think about it.
Right.
The Underground Railroad the conductors were. Some people think it's literal. The conductors were white women and white men who did not believe in slavery, and they opened their homes and had secret passages to
Hmm.
help get you to freedom. So
Say that.
all white people are not evil.
Hmm.
People are in general have their issues. Evil is a people thing, not a color thing.
Mm,
Mm.
say that.
Evil is definitely a people thing, not a color
Yeah.
thing.
It's a them thing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Keith says it's gonna work if it's gonna work for sure. All right. So now involved in the STAR program. And I thank you for that education because I had no idea that it was funded by Holocaust survivors. I literally learned
Hmm.
that on tonight, and wow, I had no idea. So now, when did you decide? So now you're an adult. You're all the way in, knowing what you want to do for the communities. When did you, first of all, get married? When did you decide to start a family, and when did Sonia come into place?
I was
Sonia.
29 years old. 29 years old when I got married. I met my wife, Sonia. Wow, we was in grad school at New York Institute of Technology, and my stepson Mark. Back then, we got married. She was re-diagnosed with cancer, and unfortunately, she succumbed to that about 5 years later. In 2004, she passed away. But God is a good God. I'm like Job in the Bible. Job lost 10 children,
Yeah.
lost his livestock, his cattle, his sheep, but God restored everything. I was blessed in this life. 7/7/11, July 7, 2011, to be remarried to my lovely wife, Angela Kirkland Saunders. We have two beautiful children, Grace and Keith. So God is in the restoring business.
Yes, he is. Thank you. That's a fact. That is a fact. So Sonia is named after your wife, and
Yes.
based off of basically all that was poured into you. So what makes Sonia stand out from like the other programs? And how have you been able? You've been doing this. You've been in this for 30 plus years. How have you been able to continue this in this vein?
in order, it's not about me, it's a we thing. I'm looking at
Yeah.
a team. We started out under the Belmont Lake Civic Association, which I got to shout them out. Um,
What was
they
it?
were part of my the Belmont Lake Civic Association out of North Babylon, the
Like,
northwest section of Babylon.
okay.
Through them, we met some phenomenal leaders who were revolutionary in their thinking process, like Alice Cohen and so many others who were there in that community from the beginning when it was segregated and had to
Right.
fight for the right for the kids to go to the high school. And I got an education from the elders in that
Mm.
community. So when Saba was in charge as the president, he knew that I was an educator, and he recruited me to run the youth program. My son, stepson at the time, was a teenager, so we started with his friends. So it was a community-based thing first. Started with his friends and said, okay, one of his friends had just got shot on Governor. The house was shot up. So we said we got to do something in the community. So the members of the community, the elders who were not scared, put together a 10-point platforming program. We went door to door, handed out to the residents, and we confronted those who was in that gang. And then we said, all right,
Wow.
let's do something positive for these babies. So my wife at the time, Sonia, was like, we came together. We got all the parents that we're gonna take Mark and his friends. Let's start with them. First thing we did, we went to see Antoine Fisher. Anybody
Ooh.
seen that movie? And so
Yeah.
because the movie was so powerful, we brought them back to our house to debrief. We had a debriefing. So said because of the debriefing, said, okay, let's do an essay writing contest. Let's take it a step further. So the kids said, okay, we're gonna do this essay writing contest. Then Steve Ballone got involved somehow. That's how I met him many years ago. He's the supervisor now of Suffolk County, Steve Ballone.
Hmm.
And at the time period, he was in charge of just north the Babylon community. He got involved. So he got trophies and some other incentives for the kids. So it began to grow. So from
Yeah.
that, it went from seeing Antoine Fisher to going to bowling, taking the kids bowling. Then we ended up getting tickets to a Mets game. And these are all community members in their own vehicles driving the children around.
Right.
And
Wow.
then and then from that grew to Janet Bermudez, who's one of our volunteers, was going to a meeting, went into the wrong room, was the room God sent it to, ended up meeting
All
Tony
right.
Patty, and ended up having a meeting with him because he was in control of running the what is called the annex, and he was in control of Brennan, where we end up being our main base. So we had a meeting with him. He gave us the permission to use his insurance and his information to start running our programs. So that was the genesis, the beginning of S.O.N.I.A.Y.
Wow. Woo. It's God. Like that's all I can say.
Absolutely.
It's God. It's God.
It's
I
all
love
God.
that it starts with, planting the seed and having, knowing that something needs to be done. So,
Hmm.
hearing you say that, one of your son's friends was shot and you guys went into parent community mode to say we got to do
Hmm.
something, and it took was one couple to have the idea and others to understand I feel the same way, so let's
You
do
gotta
it
believe.
together, literally.
You gotta believe. You gotta believe, and you gotta be willing to be amongst people of like-minded nature,
That's
and
it.
try never to be the smartest person in the room. You can have an idea, but
Very
somebody can
line.
add to that idea, and that idea expands because you're willing to be open-minded and bring in people who have expertise that you don't have. You need to
Right.
surround yourself by people who have expertise that you don't have. And
Right.
during that time period, we had a John Simpkins was phenomenal. Eddie Graham was phenomenal. We had a team in place. My man Derek Campbell, God bless the dead. That was my brother for life, who passed away during the COVID season. These are all soldiers. Fred Stewart. These are all soldiers who volunteered their time, took time away from their families, and some of them even brought their families to the organization to volunteer. And so, because of a community effort, we was
Right.
able to have an impact that lasted for 18 years straight. And the only time we ever shut down was the COVID season. So we've
Right.
been out of commission for 2 years now, but 18 straight years we served the community of North Babylon and Wyandanch and the other areas. And also I got involved with Remember Our Youth with in Hempstead. That's a whole nother conversation.
Hmm.
My brother Terrell Holloway, doing a lot of community work with him through Remember Our Youth
Right.
in
Remember
the
I.
Hempstead community, and my brother Gus, Heath Broughton, through Man in the Mirror and Wine Dance community. So I've been doing work in all these different communities from Nassau to Suffolk.
Right. Ooh. I love it. I love it. I love it. Let me ask you this, because you mentioned that when you were at the rally, that there were more of the elders, but not as many young people. What do you see going on right now? Connected to our youth, the gun violence. You mentioned the vaping, the disrespect. To our elders, to the parents, to the educators. Do you think the elders have kind of checked out? Feeling like it's a lost cause. For our youth. Like, how do you feel?
The elders, in my opinion, they did their job to get us to a certain point. In my personal opinion, after the crack epidemic, our community never recovered.
That's a fact.
During the crack epidemic, the first time in history, mothers would not take care of their children. First
Mm-hmm.
time in history, the prostitution reduced to $5. First time in history that a lot of things occurred where we neglected our community. The community fabric began to unravel. So
Right.
when mom is not home because she's chasing the high in some communities, not all, and dad is out there trying to make money because he can't find a job that he wants. So now the hustle spirit comes, and now who's watching the children?
Right.
Nobody's watching the children. So now the children got to fend for themselves. Now the easy money is on the block. So now
Hmm.
because of mass incarceration, Bill Clinton, three strikes and you're out, and our current president Biden, his bill that mandatory sentencing and locking people up. So we are suffering from that to this day. It's like the residual effect of slavery. We have the residual effect of the crack epidemic, which is how it's being treated by the incarceration rate went up. I can't even tell you the percentages because of that. So now you're taking fathers out of the home. You're taking children away from their parents because they're high. But look at it, fast forward now to 2022. Look at the heroin epidemic with Caucasian families. It's treated completely different. It's
That's a
considered a
fact.
health epidemic, not a criminal epidemic. It's a
Hmm.
health epidemic. They're getting through their insurance. They lobby through their insurance to get counseling for their children. People were robbing banks. There's a set of twins on Long Island robbed the bank because they said it was chasing the high. They got community service. So the perception is completely different.
Yeah.
So now we went from being criminalized and incarcerated, and that directly impacted our families. So think about it. If grandmama during that time period was high and you had to raise yourself, now what skills do you have of raising a child that you may have had at 17 to 18 years old because you're getting fast money, you got the shiny car and the new things and the new Jordans and new this. Now the girls want to be around you because you got the things. Now you producing a family with somebody you don't really like, and
Hmm.
now you're stuck with that child. So now you don't know how to deal. And now you get locked up, you're going back and forth in the system, you come out. Now you mom big mama now find God. Now she may be straight a little bit. Now you turning your child over to the same person that abandoned you.
Right.
So when do you break those generational curses?
Yeah.
If those who watch Ayana Van Zant, I think she was the best thing for us in the
I
world for
promise you, I
TV
miss that lady. Yeah.
because
Promise you, I
she's
miss that
able to
lady.
drill down into the family to find the core issues of where it started. And it never starts with you. It starts
That's
with
right.
Big Mama and Big Mama's mama because of the trauma in which they endured.
Right.
So until we deal with the trauma and not be scared to get some professional clinical help with social workers and psychologists and therapists and the like. Can't be scared of that because we're carrying too much pain. As
Yeah.
men, where men where art thou, a lot of men are hurting from childhood. They're hurting and they don't know how to show the love because they're still hurting. They're still little boys inside because they don't know how to be men. It takes a man to show a man how to be a man.
Yeah.
And I
Mm.
want to share with you a little something that I got from Coach Aaron McKee that I took off a line that came from Don Chaney, who's the coach of the famous Temple University. And it reads, um, my grandfather walked 10 miles. We all have family members who talked about the stories of when I was your age, I walked 10 miles.
Yeah.
It says,
Hmm.
my grandfather walked 10 miles. My father walked 5 miles. I now drive a Cadillac. My son, he's going to drive a Mercedes Benz. My grandson, he'll drive a Lamborghini. But my great grandson will be walking again. A lot of our kids are walking again. And you say, why would he be walking again? Well, Tough times create tough men.
Mm.
Tough men create weak times. Weak times create weak men.
Mm.
So
Wow.
now, because we transitioned and we got to the point of we don't raise warriors anymore, we got so comfortable because now a lot of us are first time college graduates. We
Right.
got the house and the two cars. We chasing a bag and not
Hmm.
chasing raising our kids. We want to give our kids everything that our parents never gave us. And instead of the love and the time and the attention and the caring and the hugs, we give them an Xbox. We give them George when they don't
Come on,
deserve
Mr.
it.
P.
We
Hmm.
we give them an iPhone. We give them all these shiny things. But where's the culture? Where's the character, the integrity, the values, the morals, the structure? Where's the foundation? The
Right.
foundation is unraveled because we want to give them shiny things that we didn't have.
Right.
And now so therefore that's why our children will be walking again because they don't know how to hunt. See,
Right.
tough times you had to hunt. There was no choice. If you don't kill it, you don't eat it. Tough times during Jim Crow and segregation and everything else, you had to be tough. During the time when they can lynch you, you had to be tough. Tough
Right.
times created an economy. Think about it. When we were segregated, we was doing better because we own our own laundromats, our own gas stations, our beauty supply stores, hospitals, universities. We own all of that. Why? Because we couldn't go to theirs. We had to be independent and free because it was tough times. Everybody's talking about Black Wall Street now, right? They were independent.
Hmm.
They had planes and the economy that was out of this world that people were jealous of. They tell you to pick yourself up by your bootstraps, but then they burn everything down because you're doing better than them. We in this country are making more money than we ever made before. We have more opportunities than we ever had. So why are our kids mentally still walking? Because it's easy.
Right.
We made it too easy for them. We don't hold them accountable for things. We try to coddle them and say everything is okay because our family structure is disjointed.
Right.
That disjointed family structure now is back to I got to fend for myself.
Yeah.
So now, until we start teaching our kids how to be good citizens first, good character, integrity matters,
Right.
honesty
Oh, say
matters.
that. Hmm.
And now, with the influence of the culture as an educator, sometime when the father comes in to meet on behalf of the child, you can't tell the father from the kid because they dress the same.
Ooh, well,
The language is the same. Dad
yeah.
got on the fit, the kid got on the fitted. Dad pants are sagging, the kid's pants are sagging. And one thing, I'm on my soapbox right now.
No, do
Too
your
many
thing.
single mothers are telling these young boys at the age of 5, "You're the man of the house now.
Ooh, come on and touch that.
You're the man of the house now." So now, if I'm a 5-year old, if I'm the man of the house at home with that responsibility, I can't cut that off when I go to school. If the teacher
Right.
checked me, in my mind, I'm grown because mama said I'm the man of the house. You're not going to
Mm.
chastise me. I'm going to talk back to you. I'm going to cuss you out. I'm going to do this because mama said I'm the man of the house. That burden should not be on any child.
Right.
That
Say that.
burden of responsibility, because a man is more than just how you were born as a male. In the words of
Mm-hmm.
my brother Giant from the Bartenders, we have to learn to be, instead of being male, that's what you're born as. But you have to be MAIL, male men. Why? Because male men deliver. You got to deliver financially. You got to deliver
Kai.
emotionally. You got to deliver socially. You got to
Yeah.
deliver.
Come here. Yeah.
So you got to deliver as a man.
Woo! That was a lot. So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. When I see the mothers, when I see the mothers do exactly what you just said, say to the child, Daddy's not here, you're the man of the house now. And I see them become young fathers and continue to become young fathers and keep making children and keep
Hmm.
making children. And now the mothers are frustrated, but the young man's mom looks at it as if it's not a big deal. Do you feel that the single mother's narrative does more damage than good when it comes to that?
It all depends on the mindset of the single mother. The mindset of the single mother is everything. Too many of these single mothers, let's call it what it is. Again, it's generational. I'm not calling nobody out, but look at Big Mama. Big Mama had 7 kids, right? How many fathers of those 7 kids? Five. Big Mama
Right.
got 5 daddies, right? So now you see Big Mama with five daddies, 7 kids, 5 daddies, no husband.
Hmm.
Now, Mama has out of those 7 kids, they have their families. Nobody's married because they're following the pattern that was given to them. But the issue is, as a parent and as a female, we have to be more conscious of who we decide to procreate with. We have to interview
Yeah.
because, as Chris Rock would say, a lot of times you meet somebody, you meet their representative.
Woo!
You didn't meet them for who they
Right.
are.
Right. Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
before you decide to create a life, you need to be taking consideration where each other have traveled. And until we do that, we're going to be repeating that same cycle, a dog chasing his tail over and over again. We have to get ourselves together because the power is in the family. My pastor always preached, Pastor Stephen Mangum, about there was no church in the beginning. The first church was the family. Look at Genesis.
Yeah.
God created a family unit. So
Hmm.
until the family is in order, nothing else is going to be in order. The family has to be in
Yeah.
order first.
Hmm.
Man, woman, and child has to be in order until your business can be in order, until the community can be in order. If you don't take care of home first, you can't take care of everything else.
Right. So I was having a conversation about the word submission, right? And my question was, I
Mm.
said, why do people treat it like it's such a curse word? And during the conversation, the person said, well, why would a female submit to a man? And I just want your opinion on it. My response was, it doesn't feel like a so-called submission when you're equally yoked. When God, put you two together, you become one and there's an agreement. So you handle things differently. Where do you think we've gotten lost, when it comes to marriage and what that looks like in God's eyes?
The movement, I just call it the women's suffrage movement of I could do everything a man does. Think
Mm,
about it. If mom and dad are both out of the house working, who's watching the children? Who's raising them? Nobody, because you're chasing the bag.
hmm.
Back in the day, mom stayed home. Why? Mom makes sure the kids were taken care of, their
Yeah.
schoolwork was done, their clothes were washed, everything was taken. They look down upon that. Now, there's nothing wrong with a professional woman.
Right.
Again, you have to be equally yoked. That's what people forget. Equally yoked part. If I'm a professional man and you're a professional woman, we come together. I have to prove myself that I could be in leadership, that I'm responsible. You shouldn't follow no dummy. You
Right.
shouldn't follow nobody who can't keep a job. You shouldn't
Right.
follow nobody who not kind to you or respectful of you. You'd be a fool to follow somebody who's rude and disrespectful to you, or
Hmm.
somebody who is not equally yoked or not providing for the family and doing the things that need to do. You'll be a fool if you submit to somebody like that. You got to know
Right.
who you're submitting to, but you got to
Mm,
it's an alignment. You got to submit to God first.
yeah.
Then you submit to some man. If that man is not a godly man, I don't care if it's an Allah or Buddha, whatever you want to call it. If you're not submitting to a godly man who has morals, values, and discipline, then you should not. You should stay single.
Say that one. Say
Stay
that
single.
one. Say that one. Say that one. Whew, whew.
Stay single.
Listen, that right there was a bar in itself. So now, when it comes to Sonye, what hmm, what is how can I ask this? What is like the actual outline when it comes to if I have a son and I'm like, listen, Mr. Saunders, I'm afraid. I'm afraid my son. I'm afraid I'm going to bury my son. I don't want to. Dad is not around. I don't have any brothers or male figures. He doesn't play sports. I need something. What would that look like for you if I said I'm bringing him to you?
I've had several parents and grandparents bring their child to me. That's where the incentive trips would come in. The young man in question vividly, if we were going to West Point, I'll go pick him up. If I'm going to a basketball game, I'll go pick him up.
Mhm.
So it was about me meeting them where they were, not trying to force them to do something that they're not interested in doing. If you like video games, I'll play video games with you. It's about meeting them where they are. You can't force them to be you. You got to learn them first, by talking to them to find out what their interests are, then try to connect with them based upon their interests and where they are at the time. I had a
Right.
family, three brothers. Uh, Aunt said, I can't afford to pay the $20 to join the program because in the early days was charging $20 just for the ID and the T-shirt.
Hmm.
I need help. I said, no problem. Leave them with me. We had some strong men there and strong women. Shout out to Celeste Redmond Smith. She is my right hand for 20 years with the organization. I can't do this without her.
All
So
right.
she is absolutely phenomenal. That's a whole nother story. But by the presence of a strong man and a strong woman working together in collaboration, the kids were able to come in. We have a structure. You just don't come and run around and do what you want to do. It's
Right.
a
So what
disciplinary
happened?
structure.
Hmm.
So when they came into the program, it was an adjustment for them because from 6 to 7 o'clock, the way it's designed, you play basketball, you play table tennis, you can shoot pool. It's like recreational. But at 7 o'clock, you belong to us. From 7 to 7:45, we have a guest speaker such as yourself and the Guardians. And after the guest speaker's over, you can go back to playing basketball. It's voluntary. I know you've been in school all day and you don't have to be here, but this is our program. Now, some kids will try to get there after the speaker. No, no, no. If you're not there by 7 o'clock, we're not letting you in because seven
All
o'clock is
right.
when the speaker starts.
Right.
So that structure, that discipline. Now, granted, they would complain and moan and groan, but guess what? They'll be back the next week and the following
Right.
week and the following week. So therefore, with that structure, and if you violate our rules and regulations of no cursing, no arguing, no this, no that, you do 50 push-ups or you do planks on the ground or you got to run. It was a physical discipline associated with it. And I would do the planks with them. I do the push-ups with them. The volunteers would do it with them. Because if we say a foul word, we have to do the push-ups too. So we have to show them that there was
Example.
no difference between us and them. If we broke the rules, were held accountable also.
Hmm.
We had to do the same push-ups. We had to do the same planks, except for Celeste. But we had to do the same thing. So the discipline and the structure was what made us successful because
Right.
people started to come in. And now we got to a point, we elevated to a point where if you invite your friend, you explain the rules to your friend. I'm not explaining the rules. If your friend violate the rules, you got to do the discipline with your friend because now you're responsible for who you brought into this family.
All right. Boom. All right.
Mhm.
We like that. We like that. So, have you ever had to deal with? I asked this last night. Having a program, seeing the potential, in certain ones, and then getting that phone call that they were murdered.
I've had too many phone calls. I can go back to Hakeem Coney. I can go back to Eddie from Parkside. I can go back. It's too many deaths that I can even think of. In Uniondale, before I left, in a 4 year period, I had four students who get murdered.
Wow.
Daniel McLeod got murdered on the same corner that my Uniondale kid got murdered on a year later. So I've been to, if you know Valerie McFadden, shout out to Val
Oh,
McFadden,
shout out
who's
to
a
Miss
phenomenal,
Valerie. Mm-hmm.
phenomenal queen who loves our children and our community
Yeah.
more than anybody would ever guess. Who
Yes, you
keeps
strong.
record of the kids who are now lost their lives all over Long Island.
Right.
And McFadden, when I look at her board, I'm like, I know too many of these kids.
Yeah, it's hurtful.
I know too many,
Hurtful.
too many. I know too many from Wyandanch and Roosevelt and Hempstead because I worked in all these different places. I know too many of these kids who are now gone, and I know too many of the people that shot them.
Yeah, and
I,
that. Mm,
so you got so many; it's too many to name, and
yeah.
it is heartbreaking. I lost my brother Al Monday to a gun incident. He's almost 40-something years old. So
Wow.
it's like it's too many people are being murdered by other people in our community. The genocide is what it is. It's
Yeah.
self genocide. But we have to take control as the adults and stop being scared of our children.
Oh,
Stop
say
being
that.
scared of these babies. Stop
Say
being
that
scared of these children.
one.
Because real recognize real. If you real and about that action and you approach a young man with respect and dignity as a man, they may chirp a little bit, but if you chirp back in the way they understand, they say, okay, he's cool. I can respect him.
Hmm.
But if you
Yeah,
weak,
kids
they're
recognize
gonna run
real.
right over you. Yeah,
Hmm.
real recognize real.
Real recognize
Especially if the
real.
kid
That's
is
a
from the
fact.
block.
Hmm. They will
And I'm a
call you
Catholic
out.
school kid. I'm a Catholic school kid who got an education on the streets of Roosevelt.
Right.
I
Right.
got a I got a PhD on the streets. I never sold a
Right.
drug. Never did
Hmm.
any of that, but I was part of that crew though. But that
Hmm.
crew is different. They protected me.
Hmm.
That crew protected me because I didn't sell the drugs. I didn't do the things they did. But I was still part of the crew because I had a car, but I was still part of the crew.
Right.
They did all the dirt. They did all the wild stuff. And they tell me, you better leave now because we about to do what we're going to do.
Hmm.
So I had a covering of my peers. They used to call me the wizard. I had a covering of my peers because they saw something in me. They saw me
Right.
going somewhere. And I still get that respect from these dudes today.
Right. Mm. Wow. So what do you? Okay, we have Saunders, we have the Keith Saunders. You know, what else can be done? What do you think needs to happen? You know, in our communities to make things better.
First, starts at home.
Yeah,
If you're disconnected from your kids, try to develop a line of communication with your kids. If you
absolutely.
have issues with your baby mama and she's denying you access to your children, take her to court. Get mandatory
Say that
visitation.
one.
Fight
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for your kids. No matter, because there's a lot of good brothers out there who got in an entanglement with a woman uh, um, who despises them and hates them and all the above. And they use the kid as a pawn, as a tool to hurt the father.
Right.
A lot of fathers are walking around in pain because they love their children, they want their children, but for whatever reason, they don't want the mother.
Mm-hmm.
So there's got to be a way that you can figure out some peace and co-parenting. If there's not, that's what the courts are for.
Right.
Women are not the only one who can take you to court. You can take them to court, demand visitation. Nowadays,
Absolutely.
there's no excuses. Just like you and I are on the screen FaceTiming, you can FaceTime your daughter. You can FaceTime your son. They
Mm-hmm.
can see you. If you're in another state, you can still have that communication where they can see you. They can see your expressions. They can hear your voice. They can see your face. So all those excuses are dead. So we got to fight. Now, granted, some men have walked away because for their sanity, they had to walk away because they were going to hurt something because they love their kid that much.
Mm-hmm.
So they
Yeah.
love their kid enough to walk away. But meanwhile, mom is giving a whole different narrative about why they walked away. So we
Absolutely.
got to be mindful before we even get to that stage of who we deciding to have children with, who are we deciding to lay down with. We have to value ourselves enough not to be in that situation. And if it happens, take responsibility. Back in the day, you had what they call shotgun weddings. If you knocked up my daughter, I got my shotgun, you marrying her.
We marry
You're
him.
going to marry her. Mm. But those days are gone, and the
Ooh.
devaluing of women, and the devaluing of women allowing people to devalue them, and men devaluing themselves. The imagery of these movies and the music and the misogynation and all this other madness, it feeds into your soul, and you
Right.
start embodying that negative behavior of what you see with these idiots on reality TV. Let's be clear, it's not an economic thing, because when you watch these reality TV shows, these people are wealthy in
Yep.
regards to finances, but
That's
they're
a
not
fact.
spiritually wealthy.
Mm-mm.
They're
Say
not
that one.
spiritually healthy.
Mm-hmm.
They're not spiritually healthy at all. And we get caught up with what they have. Meanwhile, look at all these people who have everything, right? Material, but they don't have love and peace in their life. Give you an
Empty.
example. Will Smith, 30
Mm-hmm.
years in this business, Grammys, Oscars. Probably the only entertainer to have Grammys and an Oscar, right? 30 years of work, quality work, never known to curse, never known to do none of that. Because of an entanglement in the situation and him holding all that pain and frustration in, it exploded before the world. And now he jeopardized 30 years
Yeah.
of a career in an instance because he never got the social and emotional help that he needed.
Right.
And he allowed himself to be castrated by his wife at a red table before the world.
Before the world. Woo! Help
So
us.
now he's trying to figure out how is he mentally going to compose that. And unfortunately, his meltdown happened before the world. Robin Williams, a comedian, very wealthy, right? Committed suicide. A
Suicide.
lot of these people, money is not in happiness.
Nope.
Money only multiplies what you already are.
Right.
If you are a drug addict, money will give you access to more drugs. If you like women, money will give you access to more women. If you like boys, money will give you access to it. Just multiplies what you already are.
Right.
But if you have peace and joy in your life,
Come on.
that peace and joy with that money you have, you'll be able to bless somebody else. You'll be
That's
able
the
to put
one.
people in position to be successful. You'll be like the brother who just paid for all the kids at a Morehouse, all the degrees 2 years ago. When he gave
Yeah.
his keynote commencement speech, he
Mm-hmm.
said, "Yo, I'm gonna
Wipe it
take care of
clean.
all of your debt."
Love it.
That's because his heart is pure.
Mm-hmm.
He just did something else phenomenal in New York City that nobody's talking about because we suffer from prostate cancer like anybody else. He
Right.
put a tremendous amount of money into vans that go around to give the test for free. Nobody's promoting that because the media want us to think that we all derelicts. The media want us to think that we all misogynistic and we all materialistic. But we got people out there doing quality work. I see
Yes.
my brother Lee joined us. He is an unsung hero in the community of Unionville, Hempstead, and Roosevelt. He's the unsung hero of mentoring young men,
Right.
but nobody knows who he is. But I'm shouting him out tonight.
Ha.
He's been putting in the work for
That's how it
years.
starts. Mm-hmm.
So sometimes your success is when people are not watching you, because when people start watching, that's when the drama comes. You're able to
Say
accomplish
that.
more under the radar than you
Mm-hmm.
do when you're in the limelight. Because now you can move in silence and get things done. Once you hit mainstream, everybody's watching. Everybody got a critique. You should have did it this way.
Yeah.
No, you should have did it that way. So now when you're under the radar, you are able to move in silence and make so many things happen, impact so many lives. The world don't know what you did, but God does.
That's it. That's it. That's it. So do you think um you mentioned suicide, and one of the things, there was a gentleman who came on a live and decided that he was going to share what he was about to do. He was at his ex-wife's house, and he's on a live, and he's saying that he just killed his ex-girlfriend, pregnant ex-girlfriend, and that he was at the house to kill his wife because all he was going through was her fault, and then he was going to kill himself. And this person did exactly what he said. He murdered
Mm-hmm.
both females, and then he killed himself. What needs to be done for our men, our fathers, our black men? Because not being funny, but just being real, it's an influx of our men doing this, and we've never really seen that before. It's other cultures, but with us, we tend to carry the weight and deal. So for it to be a place where our men are taking their own lives, what can we do? Do we need more programs for just the fathers, for just the men, to get the mental help they need so they can, progress, so they can be effective men, so they can be effective fathers? What can we do? Do do we need more of the Soniers for the men, for
Let's
our
bring
men?
it home. Let's make it real for those who live locally. About
Okay.
6 months ago, in the community of Uniondale, a young man that I knew kills his girlfriend, goes to the gravesite on in
Yep.
Uniondale and Greenwich, to the gravesite of his father, and takes his own life.
Right.
Suicide has never been a common thing among black people. I repeat, suicide has never. We've been through slavery. We've been through all kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Suicide was never an option. A
Mm-hmm.
comedian used to say, if a black person commits suicide, they're gonna jump out the basement window because they want to
Mm-hmm.
live.
Mm.
Now it's different.
It's
It's
different.
different now. So many young people are taking their own lives. In Uniondale, I know of at least
Yes.
3 or 4 kids who, when they graduated, took their own life.
Right.
3 or 4. And it's becoming so common, the pain. There's a little girl on terrace. They say she hung herself, but that's to be questioned. But there's so many people. There's another girl on Fulton walked off the top of a
Walked off
building.
the right.
So it's like the pain and the stress and the strife of life. And now, back in the day, if I had an issue with you, the only people who know I had an issue with you was in my community or those who saw it. Now, if I have an issue with you and I put it on social media, somebody in South Africa sees it, somebody in Russia sees it, and
Right.
now that pressure of being at the opposite end of that joke is no longer in the community. Now it's around the world. It's hard to live with that. So my so to answer your question regarding the men, there's a lot of pain that comes from childhood. So many men now in their books are revealing that they were sexually assaulted as children.
Right. Right. Come on.
That's something that was taboo that nobody ever talked about when I was growing up. But
Mm-hmm.
so many brothers are now as adults are talk. Tyler Perry talks about
Yeah.
it. It's so many. Lavinius Coles, Professor Jet was on Oprah. He was one of the first public figures to reveal he was sexually assaulted. Then Oprah did a show, and next thing you know, there's a room full of men who were sexually assaulted.
Yep.
So this thing is not just with us. It starts way back when it was children. That pain is real, and they don't know how to deal with that pain. Because you got to be a man, you got to be tough, you got to suck it up. You can't show any emotions. They tell little boys that scrape it off, wipe it off. No, it hurts, Dad. I'm going to cry.
Right.
It
Right.
hurts. But now, when you grow up with that mindset, you can't show any emotions. You got to be tough. You got to be strong. So, but how you going to show any love and emotion to a woman if you never had that experience of expressing your feelings and emotions? My wife gets on me. She's on here now. Shout out, baby, I love you. She gets on me now about being expressive, about saying I love you and the affection and this and that and the other. I learned how to do that through my time with her.
Right.
I didn't know how to do that before because I was a manly man and I didn't know how to express myself and my feelings. But now I'm learning how to do that. I'm not ashamed to say I see a therapist once in a while just to keep myself
Yes.
level headed and keep
Yeah.
my mind right and my spirit right and my engine going. Because in this life is not easy. You got to have a walk. And like Jesus, it's that time for Easter. We're talking about a crucifixion, but we all carry a cross. We all
Say
carry our
that
own
one.
cross.
Mm-hmm.
We all do. We all got issues that we got to carry.
Right.
But how do you carry that cross? Do you carry it the best you can? But then when you carry a cross, you have a Simon and Cyrene come along. Those who know the Bible, Simon will
Mm-hmm.
come on and help you carry that cross. They will
Absolutely.
help you carry that cross. And if you hang on long enough, help is on the way.
Say
But you got to
that.
be able to hang on because let's
Yeah.
be clear: before you can have a testimony, there's a test.
Best. That's the one.
There's a test before you have a testimony. Are you going to pass or fail that test? You got to be able to put yourself in a position to pass that test. No matter how hard it is, no matter you got to know that God is going to get me through this because God would never leave me nor forsake me. Never leave me nor forsake me. He will put me in a position that I got to go through it just like Jesus had to go through it.
Yeah.
We all going to go through it. So now,
Mm-hmm.
how do you survive that? You got to hang on till help comes.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the way, and you got to
Help is
believe help is
absolutely
on the
on the
way.
way. Mm-hmm.
You got to believe it in your spirit. You got to know help is on the way.
Mm. You think that's part of the big issue as well? People don't know God.
They don't know God anymore. Think about it. What Big Mama had and during the plantation, they had the hope and the belief in God. Regardless on the plantation, they created songs of worship to get through the day.
Absolutely.
They believed in God, but the problem was they believed in a God that was manufactured by the slave master because they didn't allow him to read the book for themselves. So they was
Right.
conditioned to stay at a certain mental level, and they was expecting the heaven to be up in the sky and not here down on earth.
Right.
So so now they pass that down generation to generation of oh well God is going to do it. No, God is able, but you are also able.
Yeah.
You gotta get up. You gotta
Faith
move.
without
You gotta make
works.
something happen.
Mm-hmm.
Faith
Mm-hmm.
without works is dead, and too
Yeah.
many of us are dead because we're expecting job to a job to walk to the door. Job here? No, job is not here. You got to go get it. And this is a day and age of entrepreneurship where you can make your own job. You can create
That's a
your own job.
fact. Mm-hmm.
So we got to get out of the mindset of a slave mindset of depending on a system that never liked you, never did anything for you to take care of you. So if a system never treated you right, they will never teach you right.
Mm.
So
That was
so
a
you got to
bar.
put yourself you got to put yourself in a position to take advantage of whatever career you're in, learn as much as you can learn, and do it for yourself.
Yes.
It took me, I'm 51 years old. It took me now, I'm finally getting the mindset that I got to show my kids something other than a W 2 job. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying this before the world because if you put it out to the world and the universe, people are going to hold you accountable. So I need
Right.
to be held accountable because it's
Mm-hmm.
time for me to do something for myself.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, what is that?
Yeah. Starting with this, talking to you, talking to people, because I was told in college I had a gift. My pastor said men need to hear you. So you were my
Yes.
first opportunity to get out in a long time to really speak and build. I was be
Bless
speaking
you.
at the House of Judah on Friday night. So
All
log
right.
in, THOJ, the House of Judah. I'm one of the 7 guest speakers. So come check
Awesome.
us out. And the
That's
conversation is
awesome.
the positioning of succession. So that's what we're going to talk about. How do you get in a position to succeed? What do you have to do to succeed?
I
And
love
people
that.
don't realize that when you deal with the word position, the word sit is in there. That sit not meaning sit and do nothing.
Ooh,
That word sit means you got to find somebody who's already mastered what you're doing, be an apprentice, be an understudy, and learn from them.
absolutely, absolutely.
You got to learn from
Woo,
them.
that was a
And you got to
bar.
put yourself in a position of being under great leadership. Leadership
Yes.
that's not going to rob you and steer you in the wrong direction. Leadership that's going to hold you accountable. Leadership that can see the gifts that you have that you don't see yourself. Allow somebody to
That's
put you in a
it.
position. So we are
Mm,
in a position now of success. And you can't have success without success.
right.
Studying under somebody that's not successful, you're wasting your time. They can't do anything for you. You can't
Playing.
criticize my business if you don't never started one.
Mm-hmm. Woo! He talking right, people. I hope y'all wrote that down. Okay? Woo! He talking all the way right on tonight. Listen, thank you so much for that right there, Mrs. Saunders. So what else do you have going on that we should be in tune with, that we should know about connected to success?
Right now, believe in yourself.
Mhm.
Um, if you believe in Christ, you understand that Christ died for our sin to give you opportunity to have new life. Your new life starts with you forgiving yourself. Yes,
Mm,
mama and daddy didn't do this. Yes, you didn't do this and do that. You have to learn. The first thing is to forgive yourself. Sometimes we can forgive others faster than we can forgive ourselves.
right.
Until you can deal with the pain within and figure out how to manage that, the pain is going to be in your actions, in your expressions, in your smile or lack thereof, in your body language, in your posture. You got to be able to forgive you because some things were out of your control.
Right.
Some things that you should have had a protector that didn't protect you. But now you have children of your own, or one day you will have children. What are you going to pass down to your children?
Right.
Are you going to pass down that same hurt and pain, or are you going to figure out a way to show them something different? You got to be able to show them something different. You got to be able to show them that, wait a minute, how do you become debt free? Because debt is slavery. See, a lot of our
See
pain,
that?
when you have economic freedom, you have choices. I work in a whole different community now in Southampton. Guess what? Those Caucasian kids and those Latin kids, those Native kids had the same issues that they have in Hempstead and Roseland otherwise. But
Mhm.
the difference is some of the Caucasian kids, parents have the finances to get them out of that trouble.
Right.
I repeat, or get them into therapy. Yeah. If you
Yeah.
come on. So
Listen, we
they
have
the
to use the
difference is
resources we
they have the
have.
same think about it. Out in Southampton, where the 1% live, truancy is an issue. Divorce is an issue. Um, Poverty is a big issue. All these people in the same building going to school. So, with that being said, you got all these different dynamics and they have the same struggles as a kid in Hempstead or Parkside. Vaping is an issue, right?
Yeah, talk about
But
that.
the difference is when you have the finances and the financial freedom, you may be a dirtbag parent, but you have the network to get Johnny out of
Right.
jail. Your
Right.
brother may be a lawyer, right? Or a judge, or a police officer, or a fireman. I see all that out there. So therefore, because of your network gets you out of things that if you were from the hood, that you can't get out of.
Right.
And some of them got the complexion for the protection. I repeat,
Say that
they
one.
have the complexion for the protection. So
Mm-hmm.
we got to get in the mindset that it's not just a black thing, it's a people thing. Financial freedom is real. How many of us could say that we have an emergency fund of $1,000? We may be walking around with $1,000 sneakers on or $1,000 belt.
Listen,
But how many of
sir.
us could say that we can go to the bank and put out $1,000 in case of emergency? And that's the low end. How many of us could say that we did the debt snowball and paid off our debt and we're debt free? I could say I'm debt free. My only debt is my mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
So how many can say that they're debt free? How many can say that they're
On.
saving towards their retirement?
Listen, sir.
How, how many can say that they're in a position to pay towards their retirement or pay towards their kids' 529 plan for college? How many people are prepared enough to do that? We're so busy doing what, following the Joneses. Want to be like this one and that one and the other one. Got to have the latest bag and this and that. Now, granted, if you make $1 million, let's say for example, God bless you to make $1 million, but you in debt of $2 million
Ha!
because you don't know how to budget and structure your life, that $1 million mean nothing because you still owe.
Yep.
That's why so many of these athletes and entertainers go broke once their
Go
career
broke.
is over
That's a
because they don't
fact.
know how to manage. No, nobody taught them how to manage. And when you get your bag, you can't take care of everybody. You can't enable
Say that one.
everybody.
Say that one.
You
Mm.
can't.
Nope. It's not.
You got to take care
It's
of
not a
home
smart
first.
idea.
No, you
Right.
can't. So you got to put yourself in a position to be a blessing to somebody else with your wisdom. You can teach them how to get to where you are. You can pay for them to go to school. You can do a lot of different things besides just give people money.
Right.
Because when you invest in them, the greatest resource you can have, with Warren Buffett, for example, I was told the best thing you can get from him is a conversation of how he did it. Get an
Mhm.
insight. He can give you a bag, but if he give you a bag and you lose that bag immediately because you was never taught how to manage that bag. So we got to
Mm.
learn how to manage the finances in our home. And it's not about how much you make. It's about what you do with what you make.
Right. Come on in here, Keith. Help the people. Help the people. So you feel that, or I feel that, learning about, finances and financial literacy is very vital right now. So
Hmm.
I saw, was it in California somewhere? They just passed a law where now it's mandatory for you to take a class to graduate. How do you feel about
Hmm.
that?
I think it's awesome. But
Yeah.
when you deal with a system of capitalism, you need a low wage community. So you don't want everybody to excel to a level of a master's degree or a doctor's degree. And granted, guess what? People with master's degrees and doctorate degrees are driving Uber because
You
they
better
can't
say
find a
that
job
one.
they can't
Mm-hmm.
find a job in a career which they paid $100,000 going in debt to get this degree, but you can't find a job. So
True
at the
they
end of
are.
the day, financial literacy is everything. Make sure you pay yourself first. Pay your tithes. My wife and I had that conversation all the time. Pay your tithes. It works for some people. Pay your
Mhm.
tithes. Pay your offering. Do what you got to do. Pay yourself first. Don't get caught up in a property you can't afford where it's more than a certain percentage of what you make.
Say that one.
Put, uh, put 18% towards your retirement. Do a lot of these things, and your life will be different because we don't
Right.
have the financial freedom. We have the money, but we don't know
Hmm.
how to manage the money and do what's right with the money. Plus, let's call it what it is. When it comes to our community, we have a lack of trust with one another.
Yeah.
Until we learn to trust one another and love one another again,
Yeah.
then we're going to be stuck in the same hamster wheel. We have to learn how to trust and learn how to love one another once again and have
And
faith in
that's
that. And it starts within our families. We got to
right.
figure out how we can do the healing in our families because there's a lot of hurt in our family. I know there's a lot of hurt in mine. There's a lot of
There's
hurt
a lot of
in
hurt
our
in mom.
families.
Absolutely.
So, what is the process to start the healing process? I don't have an answer for that because I'm trying to figure out healing within my own family. So, we
Right.
got to figure out how to heal within our families.
Well,
And that's extremely important.
it seems like you already have the first part of it, which is the awareness. Because
Hmm.
from what my little bit of time on the earth, I feel like a lot of people aren't aware of the damage, of the generational curses, of the frailties and the issues in their families. It's become a normalcy. So if you're
Right.
aware and then you have God and you're mentally in place where you understand I need therapy to get me through that thing, you're already winning connected to healing.
Right.
But it's those who are not aware and you know, the offense is heightened because
See,
they're not aware. Yeah.
the healing cannot start to I point out to the fact that you hurt me until you
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge I'm sorry for hurting you. If you don't know you hurt me, you can't apologize because I never told you that you hurt me. I just sucked it up.
Right.
But you got to be to the point where if you love me enough, you would say, "Excuse me, you hurt my feelings," or you hurt me with this decision, or you said this I didn't agree with. So you have to be in a position to be comfortable enough to say, you hurt me. And that
Right.
other person got to be in a position to receive that
Right.
and say, well, man, I didn't know that. I apologize. That's the only way healing can happen. Or else
Absolutely.
then you're gonna have that hatred. You're gonna have that. You're gonna have those continuous issues over and over and over again. We have to find some place of healing,
Yeah.
and especially within our community, because we are like baby kids. We don't die, we multiply. We've been through every
Facts.
single. We've
Yeah.
been through everything more. We're resilient people, so we can
Yes,
make it
we
through this.
are.
Think
Mhm.
about it. If we can make it through slavery and the Middle Passage and everything else, we can make it through Instagram and Snapchat and all this other madness that got us going crazy.
Yeah. Whew. I feel like, we're resilient, but to me, this is to me, I feel like a lot of us have gotten to a place where we like, I'm gonna get mine now. It's my
I
time.
want to
I'm gonna
get
get
mine and
mine.
forget everybody else. That's right.
Yeah, I'm gonna
I want
get
to get
mine.
mine and forget everybody else.
Yeah.
But
So I
the
feel
bottom
that's
line
what we
is,
have to work on.
yes, I agree. And
Mhm.
sometimes you're in so much pain, though.
Yeah.
As my brother Eddie Graham would say, we fight an enemy on both sides.
Right.
We fighting with those of us in the school system, for example. We're in a system that wasn't designed for us. We are advocating for our constituency, our people, but our people are fighting against us because we work for the system. They don't realize
Right.
that we may be the only advocate that they have in that system, but they calling you Uncle Tom, they cussing you out, and they're putting you through the ringer. And on the other side, your the system expects you to be loyal to the system and get along, gang, as Kwame Brown would say. Expect you to just go along with their decisions that are unjust to the community. So now I'm fighting you as a parent,
Hmm.
and I'm fighting against the system on your behalf. I'm getting beat up on both sides. There's
Right.
a war on both sides. So you get
Yeah.
to a point where you said, "Yo, I need to do something different." So many men are leaving the educational profession. So
Yeah.
many people in general are not going in to be teachers anymore because of the politics and the BS that's associated with it. But I'm committed to finish this journey. I'm committed because when I leave, there's a void left behind because people are not committed to my level. I'm just going to be honest.
Right. Come
People are
on and
not
speak
committed.
speak the truth. Speak the truth.
They're not committed to that level.
Right.
And because when you are committed to that level, some people get jealous and envious. I've had men as principals, and most of them was jealous and envious because the impact I have they can't do on their best day.
Right.
Instead of seeing me as an advocate and
Yes.
and as somebody as an asset
Can
that
learn
help builds
from.
their brand, not only learn them, but to help build their brand because whatever success I have goes to you because you're the principal. It's your building.
Right.
You are the head. I'm a soldier. So if I do my job right, the glory and the shine comes to you.
Right.
So there's no need for you to have jealousy or envy and all the other stuff. But it happens because
Yes,
people
it
are so
does.
into, oh, it's about me instead of not about us.
Right.
I believe it's about us because we
Right.
can't fight any battle alone. We need
Right.
we need comrades in the struggle.
Right. It's about we, not me, for sure. Or as it should be. It
Mm.
absolutely should be.
It's got to
Wow.
be about us. It's got to be
Yeah.
about us.
Hmm.
Think about it. Back in the day, if in the projects, if you didn't have your rent money, you had a rent party. Everybody came together,
Yep.
threw the money out the door. Think
That's
about it.
real.
That was a
Yep.
community effort. When I was a kid, my mom could send me next door to get a cup of sugar or an egg or something because
Hmm.
that was a community thing. If I was out of pocket in the street, my neighbors could bend my ear and spank me up and take me home and I get another spanking.
Hmm.
That was a community. Now you better not breathe on nobody's child because they come and shoot you. They
Right.
come beat you up and threaten you, all kind of madness. And now we have allowed our children to grow up wild, some of them, not all of them. Don't want to generalize, but
Right.
the reality is there's a small community segment of our babies that are just allowed to be. They grew up too fast because our communities get a bad rap because not all of our kids, the majority
No.
of our kids are great kids. It's a
Absolutely.
pocket of our kids who have struggles at home, who may be dyslexic, like my son, who because 1 out of 5 people are dyslexic. So if you don't address the dyslexia early, Now you're an adult who can't read. And now if you
Right.
can't read, you don't want people to know you can't read. So you're going to act up so you can get out of class.
Right. And
So
that's
if
where
you
the
don't deal with
anger.
these basic things, that's where the anger builds
Yep.
up. And
Absolutely.
then, and what's frustrating to me is when you have kids come from great families who are embarrassed because they came from great families. They're
Yeah. That's
embarrassed.
another one.
They're
Oh,
embarrassed
help
because
us,
they came from
God.
great. And
Help
now
us.
you want
Help
to
us.
identify with those who don't have families, because now you want to be cool. So you're going to abandon the structure and the foundation that God has given you to run with somebody who's hanging with you because you have a structure. They want to come in your house and play because you have the video games, you have the heat, you have a refrigerator full of food, your mama cook for them, but they're going to talk bad about your mom and your situation, but they're at your house every day
Right. Ugh,
because
help
they don't
us.
want to go home. And
Right.
now they want to convince you to go out into them streets, not realizing that by you going in them streets to get caught up, they don't have that same warm house to come back to.
Right. They don't have the same options.
Nope,
You
they don't
always
have the same
find
option.
those students or those kids who you have to almost yell at them and say, they're telling you to go do this because they don't have your options. They don't
Right,
have
they don't.
your life. They don't have those options. So that's why they're pulling you that way. It's a jealousy. It's envy. You gotta be a leader.
Yeah.
You have to pay attention to your surroundings. Environment is a big deal.
And
Who you hang
understand,
around with is a big deal.
and that's just not with your friends, that's with your family. Some of your family members have
Absolutely.
the same opportunities that you had,
Hmm.
same mother, same father, same choices. You decide to do something different.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And now I decided to go to school and do things the right way of being an entrepreneur. Now you're jealous of me because I'm successful, but we had the same mother and father.
Yep.
We lived in the same house, but you
Hmm.
decided to do this and I decided to do that. Don't hate on me because I listened to mommy and daddy and you didn't.
Right. Well, you'll find parents be jealous of their kids too.
Yeah,
You'll see
facts.
them throw a whole big barbecue shindig whatever for JoJo who done came home from jail. But the one that go to college, they don't get no
Yeah,
love. Parents be jealous of
none
their children as
whatsoever.
well, and that's an
That's the
issue.
truth.
That's an issue
That's
we
very
really have
true.
to heal. We have to heal.
The
So it's
healing's
a
got to
lot.
happen. The
Hmm.
healing has to start somewhere. It has to. It
Hmm.
has to. My
Absolutely.
pastor talks about all the time. The healing has to start.
Are you headed to be a minister?
I'm a teacher
What's God telling
always.
you? You're a teacher
I'm going to
always.
continue to teach.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching and preaching is separated by two letters, a P and an
I
R.
know that's right. Go
So I
ahead, Mr.
teach.
Saunders.
I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
continue to teach.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the good Lord has put me here to teach. If you
Awesome.
remember when I came back from Egypt, I brought all of my documentation, all of my photos. I turned them into lesson plans, and I used that as a teaching tool within the STAR program. When I
Right.
came back from Mexico on my honeymoon, going to all those pyramids, I came back with pictures and information for the STAR program. So it's about teaching
Yeah. We
and
need more
enlightening people and opening
teachers.
their minds. You got to open their minds to
Mm-hmm.
something different. But then
Absolutely.
what frustrates me is when you come across black men who do have a knowledge of themselves in the educational system and they hide it.
Right.
And the kids need to see that side of you, but you hide it
Mm-hmm.
because you want to be a corporate Negro.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be the corporate Negro. You want to advance. No, the kids need to hear the truth.
Yeah.
They can handle it. They can handle the truth.
Yeah.
But I'm
Absolutely.
tired of these dudes who talk to you in private about they got knowledge of self and they this and they that. But out in the world, you're just another 85 or you're a dud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
But at the end of the day, healing has to take place.
It's the healing.
It has to take place.
That's the one.
And it starts with you got to connect with something bigger, a higher power bigger than you.
Right.
Start with finding you a counselor or a minister who you can trust, not just any minister.
Right. Right. Right.
Somebody
Say
who's
that
been
one.
somebody who's been proven in your
Yeah.
life
The
that you
fruits.
can
Somebody got
trust.
some fruits.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, because it's a lot. It's a lot going on out
Yeah,
there. So you want to really
yeah,
hear from God when He
yeah,
sends
yeah,
you, to a place for your covering. You want to
yeah.
absolutely
You got
know
to have that healing,
it's
and you
God.
got to start with initiating that conversation. Just to
Hmm.
share something real with everybody, because tonight I'm just going to be transparent. I haven't really had a conversation with my stepson, Mark Wakefield Jr., in a long time. And
Hmm.
after a message from Pastor Stephen Mangum, God put in my spirit to call this young man. We had a conversation on the phone. It cleared up some misconceptions, and we speak almost weekly now.
Go ahead,
The
God.
healing, the healing, the healing started.
He's doing
We
it.
still got a long way to go with healing, but the healing has begun.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like somebody needed to hear that. That's on this call right
Mm-hmm.
now. That's on this live right now. Like I told you earlier, like I said, God is intentional. He knows what He's doing. And everything
Right.
in His timing as well. So you even sharing that you haven't really been, speaking, and now you're on this platform, and now you'll be speaking. In the seven. What is it? You said the seven. What was
Seven
it?
last words, but
The
seven
seven
last
last
words, the
words.
seven last sayings, that seven last sayings
Oh, the seven
of
last sayings.
Jesus.
So you'll be speaking on Good
Yes.
Friday?
Yes, ma'am.
All
Yes.
right. Listen, look at what God is doing.
Everybody can go on YouTube, thehouseofjudah.org,
Love that.
thoj.org.
Listen, that's a big deal. So, He's moving. God is moving. And, I just
Right.
want to personally thank you, for your work and for your example, throughout
Right.
these 30 years. Um, it's needed still. It's needed. That Keith
Right.
Saunders energy is needed. And my prayer is that, you know, there's more of you out there who answer the call, to get involved with our community, to get involved with our youth. To be an example as a father, as a husband. um, Thank you, thank you
And
just
just
for
my
being who you
last
are.
comment is that when we are strong people and strong men, you don't have to just be strong in your community. White
Right.
kids need to be an intelligent, strong black person, just like Latinos, Asians, and
Absolutely.
everybody else. So it's
Absolutely.
not just that you got to pigeonhole yourself to one community. You can still be authentically you, so they could see an educated person, and especially if you're in education, you could impact their lives real early. So when they become that judge or that lawyer, they have empathy because they know a Mr. Saunders, they know a Miss Austin. They say, oh, well, they impacted my life. Everybody's not like this person over here. That you can change people's thought process in their lives by how you impact with them and what
Absolutely.
community you impact with them. I coach basketball out here in Satan for,
Hmm.
for my son's third grade team. Majority of the team is white,
Hmm.
but now they had a chance to be under the leadership of a educated black man who knows the sport, and they get to be around people that they're never around.
Right.
So
Ooh, love that.
20 years ago, I could never see myself doing that because that
Hmm.
was all just radically radicalized to the 10th degree. I'm still radical, but to
Ha.
an amazing, to a crazy degree where I just didn't want to be around. But then I'm limiting myself. So wherever we
Same.
are on this planet, wherever we are on this planet belongs to us.
Yeah.
You know, that's it.
Are you there?
I'm here. I'm right here. Can you
Okay.
still hear me?
Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
Uh, So the bottom line is, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. Thank you to talk to your audience. Thank you for giving me a platform to just share my story. Um, you can
This is
reach me
awesome.
on.
Yes. Tell us.
So
Tell us where we can reach you. Share with us before you go. All right. Good Friday. You'll be speaking. The seven sayings. Is there anything else you have coming up, that you would need support for? Or is there anything connected to Song-Ye that what we can do, whether it's donations, what is it, tell us what we can
we do
do.
need donations in order to relaunch the program because the program has been dormant for 2 years.
Right,
We desperately need a boost. We need to restore our insurance, which is
right,
like $600 that we don't have. We need to restore our PO box, which is another $200 that we don't have. So
okay,
when you're independently operated, the pandemic had a major impact on us because when you start taking corporate funding, they kind of dictate what you want to do. So we've been
right,
operating based upon the goodness of people in the community and some great local politicians who've been blessing us.
right,
So we need some definitely need some funding to help us relaunch the program,
okay,
and we have to restructure what we're doing. So
okay,
look, we have a Facebook page, Sonia Inc. Facebook.com/SONIAYINC.
okay. All right. So they can reach out to you through the Facebook page.
Yes. And
Okay.
also through Mr. Mr. Keith Saunders at gmail.com.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
And
Okay.
I'm on Instagram. You can look me up on Instagram.
Share the Instagram page.
I'm 51, a little out of the loop. I think it's at Keith Saunders. I think it's at Keith Saunders 7.
Oh, you have a personal Instagram page. Okay. I know you have an
Yes.
Instagram page for the organization. I believe
No,
it's
we
the
don't have an
active,
Instagram
right?
page.
You do
We don't
not.
have an Instagram. No, but we do have an Instagram page for at Keith Saunders
Okay.
dot seven. I think at Keith Saunders 7, I believe it is. I'm going to
Okay.
start using it.
I'll get them. Okay.
I'm trying to join everybody else in the 21st century.
Come on in here. Yeah, we got to get you out there. The people they need to
Yeah.
be able to find you. Amen.
Yep.
Listen, this has blessed my heart so much. Um, like I said, just thank you just for who you've been, consistently. Everybody's not consistent. People like to say who they are and what they do, and they're not consistent. So then you don't believe anymore. But when you're consistent and you've had an encounter where God shows you who you are and you just get to work, that says a lot about you. That says a lot about your character, your integrity. So once again, thank you so much for, all you've been doing, in the past 30 something years, for our youth, for our children, for the communities. Um, we got to get you back in the game, at this time. You're needed. You're needed. You are needed at such a time as this, with the gun violence, as we shared. Huge shout out to Miss McFadden. you know Love that she's able to share, but it's hurtful. We don't want to really see the RIPs. We don't. So we got to get to work. We got to put the work in. So like he said, if you want to donate, if you want to support S.O.N.I.A.Y, get S.O.N.I.A.Y's relaunching. Please email him at Mr. What did you say, Mr. Dot?
Mr. Keith Saunders at gmail.com
Mr. Keith Saunders at
or uh,
gmail.com.
Sonia Inc. SON Facebook.com/SONIAYINC.
Yes, please, sir. Please, ma'am. Do your due
And I'm
diligence.
available for speaking opportunities at your church, at your lodge, wherever you would
All
like to book
right.
me, hit me up. I'm very versed in a lot of different subject areas, so I'm eager to get out there and speak to your audience. You just tell me your topic and we can get busy.
Let's go. Listen, I love that energy. And that.
Yeah.
And he also said on Good Friday, he will be on YouTube. What is it,
Yes.
Judah?
The House of Judah,
House of Judah.
THOJ Ministries. THOJ Ministries.
All right. Well, he will be one of the seven last sayings. So that is a
Yep,
big deal.
live.
That's a big deal, y'all. Y'all hear me? That's a big deal. So, kudos to you for that. But yes, continue to, stay encouraged, continue to push, continue to
Mhm.
bless us with your gift, man. Like this was so awesome. I learned so much today. There's a few books I'm gonna have to Google on tonight. I'm a reader. So I love to learn. Actually, before you go, if there's any books that you would suggest for us to read, I would love to jot them down, share with us so we can get some
Absolutely.
education as well.
I fully agree. Um, I have some here that I wrote down already.
All right,
For
look
those
at
of you
God.
educators, the new Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration, the Age of
Great book, great book.
Colorblindness, by Michelle Alexander, is something that I strongly recommend. What They Never Told You in History Class, written by Commit Kush, is something I strongly recommend. Future Proofing You is a brand new book that came out during the pandemic. It's called The 12 Truths for Creating Opportunity, Maximizing Wealth, and Controlling Your Destiny in an Uncertain World. And also recommend that you get into Dave Ramsey and the Ramsey
Love
program
David
and
Ramsey.
Anthony O'Neill. Anthony O'Neill is a black economic expert who's really into our culture and our community. My wife and I watch his podcast every Monday. So please check out Anthony O'Neill. And if you look around, I'm in my office and I'm surrounded by books.
Right. Love it.
So definitely, and for leaders, I recommend Brene Brown, Dare to
Name it.
Lead. Brene, Brene hyphen
That's
Brown.
familiar.
It's called
Uh-huh.
Dare to Lead.
Okay.
Phenomenal book on leadership.
All right. Listen, let's go, y'all. We got to get educated. Listen, God said He will not leave us ignorant. Amen. So
And just
listen.
the last note, the education is not good enough to just read the books. You got to act on it. We got too many people calling say they have knowledge of self, and they can tell you the distance from the moon to the sun and this and that, but they're failing social studies, they're failing math, they don't have economics and all. They got all these. So it's important that we put ourselves in position to read the material and develop a plan of action. Don't
Right,
sit on it. You got to
right,
act on it. It's no good to have all this useless facts if you're not implementing it into your life.
right.
It's no good to go to church every Sunday and get that word and you come home spiritually dead. You have to act on it.
Absolutely. Mm, the bars. Absolutely.
Mm.
Listen, Mr. Keith Saunders, thank you, sir. Thank you so much,
Thank
King,
you.
for blessing this
God bless,
platform.
sister. Thank you so much again.
I know that lives were changed on tonight. My prayer is that someone reaches out to you and shares with you, you know, what you did for them on tonight. I'm not here to get the glory. This is God's work. So, but my prayer is that,
Absolutely.
people give you your flowers while you're still here. So, if Mr. Saunders touched you, helped you, reminded you that you need to heal, reminded you that you need to jump out there and make that call your child, FaceTime a little one, and maybe mom will answer. Do that thing on tonight. Do that thing on tonight. This was for you. This was for you. Once again, thank you so much for coming on this platform. Ladies and gentlemen, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Hot Mic with Lady She Podcast. You can also follow me on social media. On Facebook, I am Hot Mike Lady She. And on Instagram, I am Hot Mike Lady She underscore podcast on Instagram. You can follow my personal page as well, which is SHE and as in Nancy ISSE underscore. And my other business is She's Got Tees. If you want any of the shirts that I usually wear, I don't have one tonight. But if you want shirts customized or whatever you desire, the business page on Instagram is She's Got Tees. One word. Don't forget the S on She's. All right. But listen, make somebody smile on tonight.
Mhm.
If you have to apologize to someone on tonight, um, I think I need to make a few phone calls on tonight and share some things. Amen. Um, Make sure you jot down those books that he shared and, educate yourself, and don't just educate yourself, apply it to your life. Get in,
Right.
get involved with the youth, please, if you're not already. If you are already, step it up. Keith
Mhm.
Saunders is no joke, okay? This is what he does. If you're involved with the youth, reach out to him. It should be no hate. It should be no jealousy. If it's really about the youth, you should have no problem connecting with someone who's been doing it and has the fruits to prove it. Amen. So once again, Keith, thank you so much for coming on tonight. To all those who came on and joined him to support him, thank you so very much. Hello to the wife and the family of Keith. Anybody, anything else you would like to say before we close?
Just love yourself first. Love God. Love yourself. Love your family. Heal. It's about healing, everybody, especially with the black community. We got to learn how to heal. And you can forgive, but never forget. But you got to learn how to heal.
Gotta heal. Gotta heal. Amen. Listen, everyone, enjoy your evening. Please contact Keith if you have any questions. If you want to donate, please contact Keith through email and or through the Facebook page, S.O.N.I.A.Y Inc. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you again. God bless.